Welcome to the Women Leaders Association podcast, where we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. Be sure to tune in each week to hear an empowering message from the world's top women executives, trailblazers, entrepreneurs, and all-around fierce female leaders. I'm your host, Julianne Kirkland, and I will be taking you on a deep dive of each message to equip you with the principles, strategies, and tools you need to start crushing your goals, increasing your impact, creating work-life harmony, and did I mention have more fun? Because when you love what you do it better. The Women Leaders Association is the world's largest women executives association with over 30,000 women in executive and leadership positions who are committed to the development and advancement of women in the corporate arena. If you would like to get involved in a Women Leaders Association chapter, would enjoy daily podcasts, or you desire to become a part of the Women's Mastermind group near you, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com. Now let's tune in for this incredible message.
On today's episode, hear from Stacy Fritz, co-founder of Fit to Order. She started Fit to Order in 2008 and been on an epic training regimen ever since. At Fit to Order, they believe that regardless of time constraints, demanding work culture, and varying fitness levels, all employees can fit healthy into their work lifestyles. Welcome, Stacy.
Welcome, Stacy. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you, Julianne. I can't tell you how happy I am to be here with you as well. It's awesome.
It is awesome. So let's get started. You know, I love when I meet new people and when they come on the podcast and there's questions about like, you know, what are we going to talk about and things like that. And I love just being able to have real, honest conversations with people.
I'm with you.
Right before we pressed record, Stacy was asking about a few certain words. So Stacy, bring up that conversation.
Yes. So Julianne and I were talking about how the words balance and the words alignment, for me, professionally and personally, they feel a little saturated. They feel a little overused. And when I feel that way, it comes down to the fact that are we translating what we're trying to achieve with our clients and customers if it's just a watered down word. So I asked you if you use a different word besides balance or alignment to mean something similar.
Yeah. And I said harmony.
Yes.
That's always felt very congruent with me. And it's so interesting that we're even talking about this anyway, because I think when we can really start paying attention to the words that we use, how powerful they truly are. And I was challenged as a speaker to pay attention to how often people say the word amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And it blows my mind, Stacy. And I found myself using it all the time as well. That's just how I describe something that's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a second, but are we just kind of using that as a filler word because we're not willing to go deeper and to really get to know ourselves and what our full expression is?
And we know that words matter and the intent behind words matter. And I think that perhaps maybe the word amazing, just to use your example, that's one of those things where it catches on and then all of a sudden that's the part of the trending language. And it goes back to my original point is if we continue to use the same language to describe all the things, are we really focused in on the depth of the thing that we're trying to accomplish? For me, like I said, balance and alignment are two words that really resonate with the kinds of programs and services and the speeches that I give as well. But at the same time, I continue to try to upgrade my language in a way that really addresses somebody where they are on the journey of either getting healthier or managing their stress or leadership and working with females. We just need to be super clear on the translation of how we're using words because they do matter. They really do. And I think more so it's the delivery of those words, how we make somebody feel with those words. If everybody's amazing, do we really feel amazing? No, I don't think so. Right.
Yeah, that's so true. And what has been your experience with this particular topic about words and the potency of words with wellness and what you're doing?
So I have had to get very specific as we were talking offline. My company is 15 years old. The name of the company is Fit to Order, and we provide sedentary solutions for companies whose employees sit the majority of the day. Let me make that so much easier. Our tagline is move more and stress less at work. So for example, for a long time, I think the translation for us was we were the traveling gym. We would bring stuff on site to companies. And as the evolution and the translation of us and many things that are external factors that impacted our business, we really had to get really specific on what is it that what is the value add? What is the word that comes to mind that could be seamlessly delivered and the client would then understand? And the word has really become work breaks. So
Mm,
they're short things that you can do in short periods of time that don't disrupt workflow. We're not getting into providing long classes and workshops and whatnot. We are trying to give micro learning in a situation that translates. So you can get healthy at work too, which
mm,
leads me back to my original word, which is balance.
right.
So I no longer say work-life balance ever.
Yeah.
I would just use the word balance because I believe that we aren't somebody that is separate in
Right.
our work environment. We need to be authentically us, whether or not we're in a home environment or a work environment. We do know that the human body, whether it be the mind, body, or spirit, we still need to, we're still addressing those things, even though we're making sometimes transitions between our job, our
Right.
home responsibilities, our family. I just like to look at us as 100% us and
Mm,
not segment. We're not putting our health on hold when we go to work. So the
yeah.
word work break really works well for me because I am seeking research-based movement and stress management techniques for companies whose employees don't think that they have the time to fit that in. And yet we know that they don't not have the time. They have to make the time. Our
Yes.
health depends on it.
Absolutely, it does. Oh, it so does. And I just recently have thrown out my back. And so, like, I'm sitting on a
Mm,
chair with lumbar support and all that. But it is, I'm sitting more now than I
mm,
ever have before, and
yes.
I'm so grateful because I just invested in a housekeeper and I have six
Mm.
children. So, like, that's a big deal.
That's a whole thing. That's a whole podcast
know,
episode of
but
that.
just to be able to have the time where I would normally be, loading the dishwasher in between client calls or, flipping over the laundry. Now I'm getting outside and I'm taking my dogs for a walk and I'm
Mm,
doing the things that fuel my soul,
yeah,
body, like all of it, right?
right. The
Yeah.
holistic, the
The whole thing.
holistic us.
Yeah.
So I'm going to blow your mind. So one of the things that I get the most, I can see it when I'm on stage and I'm presenting and I say this next statement that I'm going to tell you. I am so surprised that people still don't know this yet, based on what you just talked about, occupational sitting or sitting for longer periods of time. That we know, based on the research, that a 1 hour daily workout is not enough to undo and unwind the damaging effects from sitting. So let me translate that for you a little bit more. For those of us who do have regular exercise practice and people that are all the way in with their health, I will get the raise of the hand, no problem. I work out once a day. I get up in the morning or I go after work. We know based on the research that it's not that that's not enough. That's beautiful. I love heart health. I love the resistance training. I love all of it. But what we're saying is that 1 hour intentional movement that you're doing doesn't erase the 8 hours that we're spent doing what we're doing right now. Now,
Right.
that's to say, it's not too difficult to unwind those things, but we have a misunderstanding between that it's okay that we get a 1 hour workout that'll take care of it. And then the second thing is if I just go and I buy a stand-up desk, I'm eliminating the problem. And that's not true either. The
Right.
human body was meant to move. And so whether or not you're standing or you're sitting, the body doesn't like to be stuck in one position. So I think that's awesome that you have reached the ceiling and capacity, and then now you're hiring in and bringing somebody in to take over this piece of a clean house to make sure there's order and less chaos with six children, and then taking the healthy habit and
Right.
and moving more during the course of your day, whether it's just a little walk or a little stretch. It
Right.
goes a long way.
Right. So what are some of the things that you do for these companies? What would it look like if a company brought you in?
Sure, sure. So I spend a lot of time doing exactly what I just explained. I do live work breaks now, a lot of stuff online. So a company will hire me to build in 2 to 4 work breaks where we are filming and I'm presenting live. The employees can dial in if they're available during those work break times. But if not, we put them on their customized landing page, and they can come back and try the work breaks. I do a lot of those. I do a lot of public speaking on a bigger topic than work breaks. It's more about the energy and the effort that we are putting into our well-being programs that, in my opinion, aren't very efficient. And they're not very efficient for a variety of reasons. And remember, I've been doing it for 15 years. So for me to open my mouth and say what I've been doing for 15 years probably wasn't the most efficient thing to bring to a company. And now here's what I'm saying we need to morph into. And then the third thing I would say is that our products, I've developed quite a few products, and I'm getting ready to launch my brand new, my very first, from napkin project all the way to manufacturing, my invention, the Vita Ball. And the Vita Ball is a handheld tool that people can use to manage daily stress and anxiety without technology. And naturally, it's the power of the breath, which I believe is the foundation of all of our great health. And when we have disordered breathing, it impacts beyond just the breath. It impacts the way we're sitting, the way we are managing stress and whatnot. So again, the tagline is move more and stress less. It's really kind of everything underneath those categories: micro work breaks, the speeches, and then our products.
Yeah. Oh, getting in touch with our thinking, what we're thinking about, the words that we're using, the breath that we're having, right? All of those things that just seem to kind of run in the background all the time are so important to our
so important. So important.
What prompted this napkin baby?
Yeah. Well, so thank you.
This is what I need to do.
So you're going to reel me back in. So, because I do very much enjoy talking about what I'm going to share with you about the Vita Ball. And I did bring it so you could see the prototype. It will be here soon. But 3 years ago, the Vita Ball came to me literally in the middle of the night. It was a dream. And I woke up and I was like, oh my goodness, it was just so clear. Backstory: my only sibling, my brother, Brad, was diagnosed with colon cancer at 46 years old. And he passed away in October of 2020. So long journey there. And my brother was a pilot for Southwest Airlines. Loved his job. And my brother and I worked relentlessly to get him support to be able to heal from this diagnosis. And God had a different plan for my brother. But we were rewarded with 3 years of lovely time together. And what we would work on was managing pain from his diagnosis that he did not want to put in the hands of opioids and pain medication. Why? Because he wanted to fly again. So we, as a trained yogi and Reiki master, I tried over and over again, Julianne, to get him to tap into the power of the breath. And it's not that he didn't, it was just really hard for him to utilize the power of the breath. I think the dream came to me because I was trying to configure and figure out ways to teach him how to do this unsuccessfully. And the dream came in the form of, what if I was able to teach him how to take a better breath, tapping into the other senses beyond just visual. So again, I drew it on a napkin. I'm not kidding. I literally drew it on a napkin. I came up with the idea of September of 2020, and my brother passed away in October. My biggest sadness about the product, because everything about the product makes me happy, including the story about my brother, is that my brother knew about the napkin project, but he just didn't get to see it. So here's what it looks like. And I don't know whether or not you'll be showing your viewers visual as well, but certainly I can give you access. But the Vita Ball sits on your desk and is this beautiful, beautiful blue light, which you're not able to see through Zoom here. And when I need a moment of calm, I pick up the Vita Ball, and it has a second button with 5 different modes. Now I'm just going to show you that first mode, but down to the basic 4x4 breath, taking a better breath where we use full lung capacity, was really hard for my brother. So what you can't see in here is that, or feel, is a vibration. So as the white light expands, the vibration goes up, you inhale. And as the vibration goes down, you exhale with the expanding light and the vibration. So you're literally holding in your hand. It's a breath trainer. And it's a breath trainer without an app, which is intentional. And it's forcing really the ability to know when you need to take a minute, and not be staring at a screen, and really dial in with your breath going inward. So you get the other parts of your senses, not only the visual, but you get the vibration, you get the weighted ball. And it just allows you to take a work break that makes a lot of sense. We know when we train breath, really good things happen. And with 23, on average, 23,000 breaths that we take every day that are almost, they're automated, but most of us take them unaware. I think we could find more than a handful of times that we could get a work break in there in that 23,000 breaths. I think that based on our social media scrolling, a 5-minute work break with the ball is just what
it's doable, people. Come on.
is doable. Yeah. So I'm super excited, and it will be here very soon. And it's been 3 years of development. So this is not only my napkin project, but it's my heart project, because some of the proceeds of this will go to that organization that I was sharing with you about.
I love that. I love that so much. So what did it feel like to go from, having this business, and you're, starting to become more and more aware of, oh, wow, I've been doing it this way, and I really need to be in this capacity. And also going into this new realm of invention. Like, what was that journey like for you?
Well, I think that, and again, I'm sure that your listeners would agree, we know that the entrepreneurial or the women business in general, I think the only thing that's a constant is that you have to be willing. You have to be willing to lean into change. It's not that I just abandon what I started the business for, because the business is the business, and I still am quite passionate about the overarching umbrella of health, safety, and well-being. That's always been my passion. And I still feel lit up in the old things that we used to do, some of the programming. But what I realized is that we are saturated with information. We are bombarded all day long. We have the attention span of, I can't even think of an analogy, but we have short periods of time. And so I think that when we have the opportunity and the pleasure and the responsibility to have somebody's ear or somebody's attention for just a few moments, that content needs to be super smart. And if I told you with 6 kids and running a business or whatever, and I said, Julianne, I can make you feel better in 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, would you give me those 5 minutes? I think most people are willing to do a micro moment. And for me, presenting content this way has changed the business naturally, right? People, I think for the most part, do want to do a better job with their health and well-being. There's just so many things pulling at them. The other thing I realize is that there are no guarantees. There's no guarantees in life, and there's no guarantees in business. And you put one foot in front of the other, and sometimes life is not fair. And so my question is, I have 3 beautiful sons and an amazing husband. And if I did my job correctly, raising them, we were pretty passionate about serving and being in alignment with our joy. And so it didn't feel anything less than what needed to happen, because it's what we talk about as a family, and it's what we talk about in business. And I really wanted to show up, as hard as it was to make some of these changes and to go through the process of inventing something. I really wanted to show my children that I stand behind all the years of forcing that, and saying, like, you be the best version of yourself. You make sure you serve something beyond yourself, and you make sure you do it with class and integrity, and something that you can put your head down on the pillow at night. I even adding in the story about my brother, I put my head down on the pillow at night. I feel really, even if it was a bomb, which it will not be, it's going to be it's going to be widely successful. I know it. But even if this was the end of the journey, I'm okay. I'm okay.
And I heard, and I don't know who it was, but I heard somebody talking about how that's how it is congruent with your purpose, because you're not fully focused on the outcome. Like, yes, you want it's going to be successful. You want that outcome, but you are finding so much joy and fulfillment in the journey itself. Even the hard parts, even the parts that challenge you and stress you out and bring you all the why? Right. It's developing more and more of who you are.
It is.
And nobody can take that from you.
Nobody can take that from me. And the other thing is that I watched the loss of my brother on this plane was devastating. But I will say, I shouldn't call it my napkin project. I should call the Vita Ball my grief project, because me talking about Brad and the journey and standing in front of people helped me process grief in a way that wasn't so ugly. And I know this to be true because I've watched people who I love surrounding me really suffer from the loss of not having my brother here on a daily basis. And that's no judgment. But I'm saying for me, putting my time, my attention, and my love and my joy into something that he knew about that was in service of trying to help him, it made grief, I'm not saying it wasn't hard, but it made grief stand for something, and allowed me to move emotion and move energy in a way that at the end of it, I don't feel depleted like I did that first year. I feel excited and I feel extraordinarily connected to not only my brother's memory, but my brother's energy too, which is kind of odd. But as a yogi, I do feel that. And I feel like I'm still serving. And I know that if he was here, he'd be, I laugh sometimes because I believe that he would be so proud that even though it took me forever, that I did it. Like it would be one of those things we would have joked around and been like, see, I told you I could do it. I told you I could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even beyond being proud, and this is another word
Yeah.
that has been kind of calling my attention, is how frequently people use the word proud. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, I received such an awakening when someone that I admired said, I respect you so much.
Yes.
It hits you different.
Yes.
It hits you
Yes,
different.
it
And it's
does.
like, wow. And I want to encourage all the women that are listening, that have men in their lives that do speak positively into your life. But also to be aware of the word proud, because when somebody can use the term respect, again, it just hits you different.
And proud feels a little condescending for whatever reason. I don't know why, because, of course, immediately when I was a little girl, I was like, I always wanted my parents to be proud. But respect is a great one. But including the people that are speaking that into you, whatever it is, whatever positive affirmation or whatever glowing comment that they have, I try to remind myself that feels whatever it feels because of the way I speak to myself.
Yes.
Right.
Ma'am.
And so the way back to our words that matter, boy, we could have a whole field day on that.
We could have a whole podcast on words that matter.
Truly. But words, the way that default voice and the things that we say to ourselves, that matters too, because then I think it's how we, beyond just ourselves, how we receive other people's words, direct reflection on our perception. Right. Yes. How do we feel that way about ourselves? And so I've really spent a lot of time alone through this process, being an entrepreneur, as you know, and owning a business solo now. It's a lonely journey. Yeah. That self-help work, whether it's the breath work, whether it's the movement and whatnot, that's not selfish.
Right.
Not to bring up my brother again, but again, I just remind that I use that in one of my speeches. I call it the oxygen mask principle. When you get on the airplane and the flight attendant says, put that oxygen mask on first. You cannot show up fully and completely for the others in your life unless you've got that oxygen mask on first. And I think as females, we forget that's not selfish.
Right.
That's not selfish.
Right.
That is survival, and that's being able to show up. And I remind myself, when you need those moments, what would it look like if you weren't so tapped out all the time?
Yeah.
Right?
And again, being into personal development is not selfish, and it is not something that you have to expense onto other people.
It's true.
So much working with corporate, businesses is, oh, well, I'll do this if so-and-so will pay for it. No.
Own it yourself. Exactly. Nobody owes you. You and you are alone. Back to the analogy. You and you alone are in charge of piloting your journey. And if you put that kind of responsibility, that's where, again, that leads in beautifully what I talk about with corporate wellness. This is the reason why our programs don't really work all that well. We either have leadership buy-in, like, yes, I'm going to pay for it.
Right.
I'm not necessarily going to participate in it, but I'm going to pay for it. Right.
I'll stroke a check.
And then we have the workforce perspective of, oh no, you're not going to tell me what to do.
Right.
And my argument is that there should be no squabble. We should all be helping each other elevate to the best, whether it's health, well-being, the skills, the leadership skills. If we truly are wanting to be showing up in the best possible way, these are all things that you have to own first. So you've got to have buy-in here and a willingness to say this is super important. And then buy-in from here looks like there is not a work-home situation. We want you to be healthy. I want to be healthy. And both sides are leaning into the conversation. That's when a really good discussion can be had. But until then, my argument is save yourself a lot of money as leaders. You do not have to check mark that list. If you're just throwing dollars at a situation where there is zero buy-in, why are we doing that? Why are we doing that?
Yes. Yeah. And it's to hit those check marks. And it's like that. I have had conversations with people about the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and all those check boxes. And I'm like, oh, and yes. Do we need to have programs for that? Yes. But again, it's about the buy-in, and it's even about starting it in the colleges, starting it in the high schools, starting it in the middle schools, starting in the elementary schools. Like you have to go back, my friend. Like, you've got to take it to the younger generation, and we want them to be developing personally. Take it to the younger generation. I love speaking to high schools. Yeah, it's powerful.
It really is. And setting the foundation, because I'm not saying we all have to be the same, but we do all have to get on the same page and really look at all of the issues, because we all have the same 24/7, right? And so I understand this. The number one barrier to what we're talking about is always going to be time, or the perceived. But I could argue the point, right, that we have plenty of time for, and you name it, fill in the blank.
Right.
So if we prioritize what we think is going to push company forward, if we prioritize what we think it's going to push forward workforce, at the end of the day, I'm not sure exactly what we're arguing about. We're just talking about cultural changes of the right thing to do. Right. That's what we're talking about. I think we make everything really complicated. If we come back to those core values and doing the right thing and knowing what the body needs to be healthy, we know what it doesn't need. So I say, instead of spending all the time having conversations around what was happening that was wrong, can we just write the airplane and get back on the straight line and say, we need to get back to basic goodness is really what it's about.
Yeah. And across the board in all industries, like all of it.
But Julianne, I mean, you said something great at the beginning of the podcast. As a mom of 6, and I'm a mom of 3, I'm leading the witness a little bit, but would you argue, foundationally speaking, there's so many different penetration points, but home would be a really great spot for us to, I mean, if you're responsible for 6 little people and I'm responsible for 3 bigger people, we put out the output of our efforts start in whatever home environment looks like. And I could say the same thing, our output from our work environment. Again, you're still the same person. What are you putting forward? And are you totally solid on what your output, what you want your output to be? And then I think it becomes easy. This becomes strategy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and one of the visuals I like to give people is like a water bottle. If you squeeze a water bottle, what comes out? Water, right? Yeah. It's whatever is in the water bottle. And if you are loading yourself with comparison and doubt and confusion and all of this stuff that we're taking in every day, well, when you get put under tension, that's what's going to come out. Right. Agreed. And it's like, we have to be filling ourselves with the right things, the things that are beautiful and wonderful and add value. And it's like, to your point with being at home, one of the things I've noticed, I work with a lot of high achieving, ambitious women, and there is a lot of helper mentality, but I'm a helper. But are you helping because you do enjoy it and there's a product that you're able to establish and all that, or are you just getting validation from the help, right? Like that's a whole other podcast in
That's a
itself.
really, really good point. Really
I
good
deal with a
point.
lot of that. And so with my daughter, who's the only girl out of 6 kids, she's the only girl.
How old is she?
She is 8. She's 8. And so she gets a lot of validation being mommy's helper, right? And I'll tell the brothers, y'all need to go clean your room. Well, I'll do it for the mommy. I'm like, no.
Yes, I know.
No, because I don't want her to start having that be her identity. Well, I'm the helper.
Right.
Oh, baby girl, like you're so much more than that.
It's amazing how we default back on what we thought was the norm. And I agree with you. And I think boy, she's lucky to have you, because setting the tone for imprint, what we receive early on is what seems to stick. What do they say? The issues in your tissues, and and being able to send a message that of strength, of resiliency. And there's nothing wrong with helping. There's nothing wrong as a part of that, but as a notorious characteristic of female, I mean, I see you. I mean, I get that completely. And I think that we need to do better. Now, I will say, in terms of your listeners, one of the things that has become very clear to me is that my moments of disorientation, when you use the word of friction or resistance, the moments of my life, especially to recent, where that has really shown up for me, the disorientation has been the invitation to level up my whatever, fill in the blank. So when COVID hit, that was a huge invitation to, I now look at disorientation synonymous with the word opportunity, instead of it being something negative. I mean, I don't know that when my brother was sick that I was like, oh, this is a good opportunity, but it was disorientation. Like I was like trying to figure out, like, okay, what does this really look like?
Right.
So whether it be from a young little girl where we're just layering in foundation, or an older woman like myself and now being disoriented in what I thought to be true, I think that those are incredible. You have an opportunity, I have an opportunity, and disorientation just might be the little jumping up and down signal that says, hey, this is a really good time to shift. Because what I've seen is that when you're already so low, disorientation is kind of like, how do I get to what's it going to take for this to look differently, to get to the other side of it? So encouraging nonetheless, and not to be afraid.
Yes,
certainly, because life is full of disorienting moments, right?
It sure is.
It sure is.
Yes. And it's so beautiful that you said that, because in my TED talk, I say the word, it is what it is. That is one of the most negative expressions that we can use if you're trying to build a more positive life.
I agree. My least favorite one is yours is, it is what it is.
Yes.
Mine is, think about this one, because it's not going to hit immediately, I don't think. Mine is, you don't get a vote. And I tell that sentence to me is like nails on a chalkboard, because what it means is that whatever's happening out here, we don't get to decide. It's somebody else's decision. It's somebody else's circumstance. So because you don't get a vote, meaning your voice is not welcome there, or it's not going to change anything. So for me, it's that one that is just so disarming. Like it's just ick. It is what it is, meaning there's nothing you can do about it, and you don't get a vote, which is, it's out of your control. And I would argue that maybe some things are, but you always have the opportunity on how you respond.
That's right. And then, again, to all of you who are listening, as we wrap it up, I want to encourage you to really look inside of yourself, and that still small voice, that nudging, that intuition that you've had to go for greater things. And yeah, it's uncomfortable.
So uncomfortable.
Isn't always nice and pretty.
No, it's not.
But it's worth it. It's
worth
it. So,
and
go ahead.
But before we jump off, let me just say, I love what you just said. And then I also, there's like an and at that. sometimes when we go big, it doesn't quite work out the way we thought it should. And so I think for me, I would have loved to have heard back in the day when I started the business which is go big, make big choices, take big chances, but understand the biggest chance and the biggest choices that you make often are accompanied by some of the biggest falls. And that is okay.
Yes.
Because there was this and part that was like, for those of us who are recovering type A or perfectionists, it's like, but I did go big. It didn't work out the way I wanted it to. And you know what? Sometimes that's the price that you pay for taking big chances.
Yeah.
The reward is great, but sometimes it has to shift, and we have to shift gears, and we have to make another big choice. So it's not a linear, you did a good job, or I'm proud of you, or you're a failure. Right. It's more like, are you in alignment? Stay the course. And you may need to adjust the course just a little bit. It's okay.
It's okay. And that is the thing, is it's okay. It might not end up how you want. And probably 90% of the time, it's not.
But you don't know if it doesn't turn out better, right, Julianne?
Right.
We don't know what he's got in store for us. So
exactly. You don't know.
Just trust, and you do the best you can with the research that you have, and you make smart decisions, and you take big chances, and then you have to be willing to say that didn't work, or it did work.
Right. Exactly. And, to get around people who are like missioned, who get it, who are on the same, wanting better and personally develop and all of those things, because when you are around other women, other men like that, it really does start to elevate you. Like you just want to be better. It just, it's the tide it brings.
And then conversely, hanging out with people that pull from that. I think that's probably the best thing about this chat is know who your 5 are, know who you want to surround yourself with, and be really confident in getting clear on who are you in this whole process. Yeah. Because certainly there's plenty of things that are going to pull us away from the thing.
Yeah.
I know, you know what I mean? But if you're solid on what you want to go after, and you're making intelligent decisions based on that, and you're willing to take a chance and maybe not get it the first time, and you're surrounding yourself with people that are going to help propel you forward, I don't think you can go wrong. I really don't, because the reward may look different, but it's still rewarding.
Right. And then goes back to what we were talking about, the journey, right?
Yeah.
It's so into it. Okay. So what is one last piece of advice, Stacy, that you have for that entrepreneur who's been listening, or, a woman in the corporate world or whatever, who has been listening, and like, she's sitting at the edge of her seat right now, because she's like, I love all the things that were said, and I just, where do I start? What would you tell her?
What I touched on briefly a moment ago, I would say, look for the places of friction in your life or disorientation. I think that is a clear message that something needs to happen, some change, some movement, some step. And reframing disorientation to say, thank you, I'm looking at this more clearly. Because if you stay in friction and disorientation, I think that is a huge red flag that you are not aligned with your mission. And I think it is a gift that lets you know that it's time to look at this a little more clearly. The things that don't come easy, the things that aren't flowing, the things that are just so challenging to get through, that is disorientation to me. When the bottom line isn't changing in the right direction, when the kids aren't doing X, Y, and Z, when there's a problem maritally, when there's a problem relationship wise, that is disorientation to me. And that is my clear sign to stop, pause, take a beautiful breath for a response, not a reaction, and then figure out what you need to do to reorient, realign, resettle in. Because that's always going to be happening. But how great is it? It's almost like you get the little, you get the little whisper that says, you got to get in there. You got to get in there. And some could maybe a little change, maybe a big change. I don't know. But disorientation to me, that would be what I would give to your listeners. Invite that in. That's telling you what to quote unquote fix, which I don't really mean, but you know what I mean.
Pay attention to. I love that. So Stacy, what are ways that our listeners can get in touch with you?
Yes, ma'am. So the easiest way, Julianne, I think would be to go to the website, the main company website, which is www.fittoorder.com. fit2order.com. That's FIT, the number 2, order.com. And you can find, all sorts of forms there and I get all the messages, so it will come directly to me. My other one is my speaker site is stacyfritz.com, and it's Stacy with no E.
Awesome. And we'll be sure to have that in the show notes, make it easy for you all to click on and join our world and join the conversation. Stacy, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I really enjoyed it. I knew I was going to, Julianne. I really appreciate what you're doing in the world. And from a like-missioned woman, I wish you the best of luck to continue on. I'd love to stay in touch.
Thanks, my friend. All right. You have a good day.
Take care.
Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye.